Hey everyone, welcome to Grace Through Pain, a journey to hope. I have just been loving these past few episodes because I get to have friends on and it's just so much more fun talking to people. And this episode today is just going to be amazing because it's my great girlfriend, Lauren Thomas, who's joining us. And we actually filmed an episode together of my YouTube show back in 2020. So I'm excited to have her back to kind of get some updates and, hear what's new with her. She is a badass. You're going to love her. She is an entrepreneur, a advocate, and I just can't wait for you to hear everything that she has to share with us. It's going to be some really good kind of tidbits and something for us to all kind of take away and learn from. I always learn whenever I get to spend time with her. So without further ado, let me kind of play with this and figure out how to bring her in. All right. Hey, girl.
Hey, sis. How are you?
I'm so excited for this. I miss you. What, the Vineyard? Martha's Vineyard was the last time I saw you?
Last time I've seen you.
Our special place.
So many good memories there.
I know. We've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, a couple of years.
I know. I love it. So guys, as I just said before, we've got my dear friend Lauren Thomas here back again. The last time we did this, we were deep in COVID. So wow.
Yeah. Anyone has PTSD.
Right. Triggered, right? No, but I want you to just take a minute to introduce yourself to everyone. Let us know a little bit about you. I shared that you are just a badass. You're an entrepreneur, a winemaker, an advocate. You're just a force. And so I'd love for you to just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Thomas, and I am an advocate as well as fully invested with my family business. We have Sherlon Champagne, which is a first press French champagne that's, now here in the United States that we're very excited about. It's low sugar.
So good.
100%, Black owned, family owned. We're very proud of that. And I am also just, a daughter, a sister, and a friend.
A great friend. Sister friend. So, we talked about this, and I'm going to have in the show notes for those of you that are listening, a link to our episode. And then if you are watching this, we'll have it in the end credits so that you can kind of see more about what Lauren and I talked about in August of 2020. But that's when we met. We met in 2020.
Yes.
Right?
We met at Sundance.
And so we go deeper into that story, on our first chat, but it's what has connected us. And obviously we are friends well beyond that, but our chronic illnesses is what kind of brought us together.
Yeah, it definitely kind of, broke the seal of just being, a professional relationship to something deeper.
Exactly. And what I loved was, when we met, neither one of us knew that the other was suffering or was going through anything. And I think that's so much what I talk about, what you talk about, is the invisible illnesses that so many people carry. And both of us just didn't know what the other one was going through until you kind of had or were preventing a little flare up. So tell us a little bit about your illness.
So I have narcolepsy type 1, which is narcolepsy with cataplexy. And narcolepsy with cataplexy, it's a neurological disease that affects your sleep-wake cycle. Basically, the main symptoms are excessive daytime sleepiness, trouble falling asleep and staying asleep at night. Cataplexy is the presence of sudden muscle weakness or paralysis when often triggered by strong emotions like laughter, fear, I guess laughter and fear are kind of the main ones that get it for me. But yeah, it's been a journey. It took me about 15 years to get diagnosed. I was very sleepy for a very long time and was just kind of, brushed off as,
Yeah.
just deal with it. Well, most people are tired.
Right. Well, that's true, but this is different. When people say they're tired too, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same as the tired that you are.
Yeah, it's they say that a person with narcolepsy, their typical fatigue level is equivalent to an average healthy person. They would have to stay up for 72 hours straight to feel the fatigue of someone with narcolepsy.
Wow.
So it is very severe. It can be quite dangerous. There was definitely a long period of time where I wasn't comfortable driving. Until I figured out, a proper medication regimen for myself. It, definitely interferes with my life, my job, working, my friendships, dating, relationships. It, kind of really seeps into every cycle of my life. I know you can relate with, the fatigue, caused with your illness. It's, just unbearable and,
Mm-hmm.
can affect our moods. It's really been something that it's, it's a relief to kind of have a name for it and to kind of know that, my tired isn't everyone else's tired. And this
Right.
isn't just
Right.
something that I had to suck up and deal with. But at the other hand, it's a grieving process to kind of realize that this is just going to be how it always is. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always going to have to, have this maintenance to deal with. I'm never going to feel fully rested or, fully awake. And,
Right. Right.
wakefulness is a gift. And it's, something that, I've kind of had to grieve that loss of never really being able to feel wakeful.
Sure. I mean, I say all the time, the foreverness of this is something that you never really, I don't think our brains are really wired to accept it, which is why this grieving process is something that is just ongoing, because we just can't, it's still something that I can't wrap my full mind around. And it makes me even more sad when I realize that I can't remember feeling good.
Yeah.
I can't really recall that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also just, that's heartbreaking,
Mm-hmm.
to have that be, our reality. And what's interesting to me, and why I was really looking forward to us chatting now, was because when we last talked, in this kind of space on this platform, we were both around a year and a half to, or year and a half into our diagnosis. And you had been sick for a long time, but having your official diagnosis was about the same time, as me.
Yeah.
So now here we are, either 5 years or a little over 5 years later. And I just wanted to kind of just check in and see, where are you at? We're not necessarily, newbies, at our diseases, but we're not veterans either. We're just kind of in that, we've kind of got the hang of it. We
Exactly.
know what a baseline should be. I don't know that we're necessarily always at our baseline, but
Mm-hmm.
we have something that our new bar has been set of what we're trying to get to. And so I just wanted to see just how you're feeling about it.
So I was diagnosed January of 2019. So yeah, it's been about 5
Yeah,
years.
5 years. Mm-hmm.
And I feel encouraged, which is something that I'm not sure I ever, would have really gotten to. But I feel like you said, I'm not quite the veteran yet, but I kind of, I've gotten to a place with, my medications where they no longer feel burdensome for me. I'm kind of, at the place where, I know this is what I have to take to make me feel better. And this is a tool that I can use to make me feel better, and not oh, I have to be on medication. I wish I didn't have to be on medication. Maybe today, if I skip it, I'll be fine. I'm never fine.
Yeah, don't skip it.
So I feel like it took me a while to kind of realize that I have to be, on my game with my meds in order to really function. And skipping for me is just not an option.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also, I can say I'm encouraged because 5 years ago, there were I think there was one FDA approved narcolepsy medicine. and
Wow.
everything else were off-label kind of medications that, were mostly like, ADHD meds, like stimulants that, were used to treat narcolepsy. But there was only one FDA approved medication. Now I think there's at least four or five.
Okay. Wow.
And there's at least 3 other clinical trials that are going on right now that are really encouraging.
Hmm.
So I feel like, being someone with narcolepsy, there's just a lot more options that there were. And there's still not, a lot, and there's, not everything works for everyone. But I think you know, I think really honestly through a lot of the patient advocacy that I'm, really feel really fortunate to have been a part of, and, been welcomed into this advocacy community of people with sleep disorders. I feel like we've really, kind of gotten this ball rolling and
Hmm.
really trying to
Hmm.
put a lot of pressure on people to, take sleep really seriously.
Right.
So I feel encouraged that, hopefully within the next, 10, 15 years, there'll be even more medications and hopefully more things for, pediatrics with, narcolepsy. And
Mm-hmm.
it'll just, I hopefully, be, you know, easier. It will just hopefully be, easier, less traumatic, less of a, it's less of a burden for someone that's newly diagnosed, because it was
Sure.
definitely, you know, I just felt like I was like, wading through a swamp when I was first diagnosed. There was, very little information. What I saw on the internet, what really scared me.
Hmm.
Some of these medications, one medication that was, FDA approved, like, was highly controlled. Like, am I going to be able to afford it? Like, it was
Yeah.
just difficult. But now, there's more affordable options. There's a lot more, access for people to be able to afford these medications. And I just feel encouraged.
I love to hear that. I mean, it's interesting when we're dealing with illnesses that are chronic and that there is not a cure for. So much is about just managing our symptoms and trying to find that kind of better quality of life. And so to hear that, 5 years later, there's just more options for people, that's just so huge because that's all that we have. There isn't something to fix us. So anything to give some relief, give some rest, just any type of respite is a blessing. So that's awesome. And I wanted, before you talked about your advocacy, and that's what I can't wait to talk about. But I did want to ask you, how are you feeling with 5 years kind of in about the perception of narcolepsy and people's understanding of it? Because I was watching Barbie,
Okay.
and I'm not that big of a fan of it. I'll say that on record.
Yeah,
It's
I
fine.
agree. It was
I
fine. It was
it's fine.
fine.
But anyway, that's another episode. But they were talking. They made a joke about being narcoleptic, and
Mhm.
the person was like falling asleep or drifting off. I don't even remember because I was so turned off by it because
Yeah.
I obviously am very triggered because of you, and very bark at anyone that I hear that makes any kind of reference to narcolepsy. I know that before meeting you, I did not have an understanding
Mhm.
um, of it and thought the same. And
Yeah.
so I was really bothered to see that that was something that was still being kind of said. And I just wanted to hear from you. Is that kind of largely still the case in terms of people's understanding of narcolepsy cataplexy, or is that, how do you feel like are we on a good road there?
I mean, I have to say, I think my immediate community of, friends and, even people that follow me on social media that I don't have, immediate contact with, but, have been supportive through the internet. I do believe that I have made a difference in my immediate community, and, the face of narcolepsy for them has been
Mm-hmm.
able to change. Narcolepsy is not, falling asleep at a whim in your soup. It's not, something that, is just an instant, oh, you're on the ground and you're asleep. It is a pervasive feeling of being so, so tired that it is difficult to manage your emotions. It's difficult to function. It's difficult to brush your hair. It's difficult to shower because you are just so tired.
Mhm.
But you know what? Because, the state that we're in, people have to go on about their lives. Most people with narcolepsy are undiagnosed. It takes about 10 to 15 years on average to get diagnosed.
Wow.
So most people with narcolepsy are still going about their days and making it work because, that's just what you have to do. Unfortunately, because of Hollywood and the media, there have been, these stereotypes about narcolepsy that continue to persist. The organization that I work with, Project Sleep, we actually have been trying for, a few years now to try and get, patient advocates on sets, kind of, if there's a character that has,
Mhm.
certain, diseases or disorders, oftentimes they have, a consultant on set to kind of make sure that, their depiction is accurate.
Great.
Unfortunately, that has not happened so far with narcolepsy. We are pushing for that to happen. We've been, sent letters to studios, but, so far, we've
Mhm.
kind of gone unheard. But, we're going to keep trying and keep putting the word out there. But unfortunately, Hollywood is
Yeah,
a big, big player in these stereotypes that persist.
totally. Yeah. I mean, we see that and we think that that is the truth and that that's what it is. And so then
Yeah.
I know again where my opinion was formed on it, and was just so fortunate to have you in my life to educate. And then I know that all of your friends and family, we're sharing it and, educating people around us. So I guess hopefully every kind of like a little bit, helps.
Good.
But I was like, I wonder what Lauren thinks about that because I'm
Yeah.
pissed as I'm watching this movie.
And then one thing that I can say that I really, it does bother me when people are referred to as narcoleptic. I
Mm,
prefer to say a person with narcolepsy because we
okay.
are people first
Yes.
and we're not our illnesses first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is another thing that kind of, will irk me when it's, referred to as, oh, they're narcoleptic or
Right.
narcoleptic. But, like we're people and we also have narcolepsy.
Absolutely. There's not, I mean, there is even a word for multiple sclerosian. Like that's not what we
Right.
say. Like,
Yeah.
so good. That's really good to know. And so let's talk about Project Sleep. So when we last spoke, it was right around, it was the falls. It was gearing up for World Sleep Day or World
Yeah.
Narcolepsy
World
Day.
Narcolepsy Day,
Yes. And
September
so,
22nd.
okay. And so you're still on the board and
Yes.
you were in DC recently at the White
Yes.
House. I can't. When I saw this, I was just like, are you kidding me? Not surprised.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Not surprised in the least, but to go from, where we kind of started to seeing you sitting, in the White House with all of these people watching you and looking at you. And I'm going to steal some of your photos and we'll have that playing for those of you guys that are watching so you guys can see her there. But tell us all about it. How did it happen? What happened? All of it.
So it kind of, all came together really fast. One of my good friends, another fellow advocate, Lindsay Scola, she has a background in political advocacy and, it's political strategist. And so she'd been kind of working behind the scenes for a few months, trying to make something happen, trying to, get us in front of, anyone that would listen, talking about sleep equity.
Okay.
And so it all kind of came together, really fast. We already had planned, in October, we always, or it was early November. We always have planned a day of congressional advocacy, and it's an annual trip that, Project Sleep takes, with some fellow patient advocates and other sleep groups. And we have, a day of advocacy on the Hill. So that was always planned. It's been going on for a few years now. But we were hoping that we could get, in front of,
Right.
more prestigious audience at this point. So it kind of came together maybe, 2 weeks prior to the
Oh, wow.
actual,
Okay.
DC advocacy trip. And, I was already thrilled to have just been, invited for the day of
Mm-hmm.
advocacy, to participate in that. And then when I was asked to kind of share my story in front of the Office of Public Engagement, and that was who we spoke in front of,
Okay.
I was just so honored. I don't know if you know this, but my grandfather was a Secret Service agent at the White House, and he
No.
passed away when I was very young.
Okay.
So, I don't have a lot of memories, with him, but, I just, you know, my whole family, he's kind of, like our, legendary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
patriarchal head that, we just adore. And so to feel like I was walking those same halls that he walked through,
Wow.
and, like when he was walking those halls, he was, one of a few Black men. He grew an
Mm-hmm.
afro in the 60s as protests. And, that was really
Yes.
controversial for a Secret
Right.
Service agent. And, I felt like I was walking in there to share my story of sleep equity, experiencing race and gender bias throughout my diagnosis and treatment. I just, feel like I finally felt that connection to my grandfather through that
Mm.
moment. And
Yeah.
it was a very special, connection and moment for me to be able to, finally have with him. So it was,
I love that.
very sweet in
Wow.
lots of different
Yes.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, my actual, speaking in the trip to the White House, it was, me, my friend Matt, who is another patient advocate. He lives in rural Kentucky. So he talked about, kind of access in rural areas,
Okay.
what it's like being a patient that, lives below the poverty line, how to access, treatment, medications, work accommodations. I more spoke about my, process of getting diagnosed as a young Black woman and kind of what I had to go through to honestly like prove that I was deserving of,
Mm-hmm.
getting these, tests done on me to prove that I had narcolepsy. It was definitely at times dehumanizing. Felt like I was brushed off. Luckily, I had great family support that, always believed in me, and, wouldn't stop fighting right alongside me. But, there were lots of times where I was told to give up and this is all in your head and, go get a therapist and get on an antidepressant and move on. And,
Yeah.
that is not the cure for narcolepsy.
Right. Right.
There is no cure for narcolepsy, but that is
That
not the
part.
treatment.
Exactly.
So, being able to just kind of feel validated and
Right.
seen and
Mm-hmm.
being able to share that story, because I know I'm probably, one of many that feels like
Absolutely.
this is their
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to represent, it's just like probably the biggest honor I've ever had.
That's amazing. I mean, you looked great. It looked like they were just all eyes were on you. So I was like,
Thank
whatever
you.
she's saying to them, I was like, they bought it and they were in. So that was just such a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And
Thank you so much.
I just I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of us. I was thinking about, so it was last March that I went to DC as a patient advocate with the MS Society, and we were lobbying on the Hill. So
Mm-hmm.
you went to speak with your senator, and then different representatives
Yeah.
from your state. And so it was a full day. It was You had someone from the MS Society with you, and then everyone else were patient advocates, and it was a kind of retelling of your story and just humanizing it, and letting people kind of see the people behind these different acts and laws that we're trying to get put into place. But for me, the advocacy piece, as much as yes, it's amazing, we're doing good, all those things, but personally, selfishly, I found that it gave me what felt like some control. It
Yeah.
made me feel like I was actually doing something to fight this illness,
Mm-hmm.
something that I was responsible for, something that I could kind of do to kind of change the shape of this. And so I just wanted to know, for you, when you're doing your advocacy work, do you feel the same? Do Do you
I
take
feel
that
like
kind of
it's
person?
been like a major part of my healing and coming to terms with living with this disease.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like you said, it kind of brings you some control, makes you feel like you have a purpose
Mhm.
and, something that is in your hands that you can do to make a difference, whether it's immediate and it's going to, affect you right away, not always, but it's something that, you can chip away at that
Yeah,
does eventually make a difference for a mass amount of people. And that
exactly.
to me, it really does. It makes me feel better.
Mhm.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like it's been healing. It's been, something that, just helps me if I'm having a hard day. Like I really lean into my advocacy.
I do too. I mean, I think back to that kind of lack of control piece because there's so much with, when we were in the vineyard just last August, the plans that we think we have for what we, want to do on a particular day, and then what our illnesses sometimes decide for us, have us feeling again that lack of control. And even more so, you mentioned it just with your diagnosis journey of not being seen and not being validated. And I think that that's something that you and I a lot, even more so in the past year or two, have experienced. And now I know that you're dealing with some things outside of the sleep disorder that you've been struggling with, but it was really scary. I mean, you were not really walking for a while,
Yeah.
and just it didn't seem like your updates that you would share in our chat. It was just like, so what's going on? Like, is this
Mhm.
what's wrong? I felt like there were some procedures that you had that you didn't need to have. So I just wanted if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah. Around I've lived my life with a lot of chronic pain. I had 3 knee surgeries, at by the age of 17. So I think as a young adult, I kind of just brushed off a lot of things as, oh, I was, an elite athlete and, I'm going to have some aches and pains. But my aches and pains were not something that, anyone should have to be going with. And unfortunately, right around, right when COVID started, unfortunately, my body basically kind of, said enough. I later found out that I have something called femoral retroversion, which is
Okay.
where my femur attaches to my hip at the wrong angle. So it's almost like my femur was almost kind of backwards attached to my hip.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I experienced, labral tears, something called a hip impingement. Um, my back was all messed up. I had, a slipped disc. And, all of that, was a congenital thing, something that I was born with. I probably wouldn't have had to have, all those knee surgeries had, that been addressed,
Mm-hmm.
earlier in infancy as it normally is diagnosed. Um, but yeah, come 2020, my body really shut down to the point where I was using a walker most days to get around. I, moved back in with my parents. I was, bedridden for a lot of the day and was just in, such bad pain and was going to, multiple hospitals. Mind you, it was the middle of COVID, you know, getting appointments with specialists, it's already hard enough, but then, add COVID into the mix and it was damn near impossible. We, drove to Baltimore at one point to go to Johns Hopkins to try and,
Wow.
figure out some things. I was diagnosed with endometriosis while I was there, which,
Right.
was, a one piece of the pain puzzle because that is an extremely painful, disease. But unfortunately, never at any time in probably the 2 years that I was really searching for answers did anyone think to x-ray my hips when
Mm.
my main, complaint was extreme groin, hip, and back pain.
Wow.
They just referred me to chronic pain and said, here, you're just going to be a chronic pain patient for the rest of your life
Mm-hmm.
and, get injections and take narcotics. And this is your life now. And I was not having that.
Yeah.
I was, probably took a couple days and was pretty distraught. But then I really, just had to really look through my Rolodex and reached out to anyone that I knew in the medical profession, and just kind of said what I'd been dealing with. And luckily, my, angel friend doctor, his name's Dr. Allen. He's with Hospital for Special Surgeries in New York. He did not end up being, my hip specialist, but he took the time to listen to me. And
Okay.
he
Yeah.
says, I don't think that I can help you, but I think I can point you in the direction of someone that can.
Wow.
And my mom and I were crying in his office because it was the first time that someone had just taken the time to listen.
Just to listen.
And just, from there,
Mhm.
tried to rake their brain to see what they could do to help. And for people listening that like maybe haven't gone through a chronic illness, it may seem, oh, isn't that what doctors are supposed to do? Don't all doctors do that?
Right.
Like, no, they do not.
They do
They do
not.
not.
They
They
do
give
not.
you about 5 to 7 minutes.
Mhm.
You have that much time to, do your spiel.
Yep.
If you don't get it out fast enough, they are on to the next. So the
Mhm.
fact that he took the time to listen to me, and then, from there, take the time to reach out to his colleagues and get me in with someone that, he believed could help me. And then I finally had the correct imaging done and was diagnosed with this congenital hip disease, femoral retroversion. That was life-changing, and it took 2
Yeah.
years.
2
It took
years.
2 years of searching. By then, I
Mhm.
was not walking. I was in so much pain. I was, taking, narcotics, like, every few hours. This was just not the life of someone, at 29 years old that like,
Right.
you're supposed to be going through.
Mhm.
And then they were expected to just live like that the rest of your life. Like, absolutely not.
No.
I'm
So
just
what was
grateful.
is it fixable? Is it something that can be fixed, or what's
It's something that can be fixed. Unfortunately, when you're an adult, it's a lot more complicated to fix than if you're diagnosed as an infant, just because of, how our bones are at this point in life.
okay?
Um, Unfortunately, because of a lot of the steroids and injections that I, was receiving for pain treatment, I also developed osteoporosis. So,
Okay. Wow.
my bones were, really not in good shape for the surgeries that I had. I've had about 9 surgeries since 2020. But they
Mm.
basically have to break your femur in half, reattach it to your hip,
Okay.
put a rod in to stabilize it, and then wait for the bone to heal around the rod. And then they remove the rod once the bone has healed.
Wow.
Unfortunately, my first go around with surgery, my bone was not healing because we didn't know about the osteoporosis yet. So it took about 16 months for my bone to heal. And during that time, I was still in significant pain and not able to put weight on it because they didn't know about my back issue. I had, a major slip disc in my back, which I
Just
know
this
you're
like
dealing with.
domino effect
Yeah.
of
So then I had to have a back surgery, as well as some bone grafts and, stem cell transplants to try and, stimulate bone growth.
Mhm.
So that first surgery that was supposed to be 1 surgery turned into 4.
Oh my God.
So I, finally recovered from my left
The
side.
right. I was like, that's just one side.
Yeah. And then in November, just past November, I started on the right side.
Got it. And
And
so now that they know about the osteoporosis, will they do anything different, or is
yes,
it okay?
they did some preventative things in the OR to, kind of stimulate the bone growth. And I'm also taking a daily injectable medication that, I'll be on for a few years that, also stimulates bone growth.
Okay.
So, yeah, so far so good. I am,
Okay.
healing as expected.
Yeah.
I am, I can say that despite all of the complications and, distress, it has been worth it because I am, able to, I'm still walking with, a cane or a crutch right now, but, for the most part, I can say that I am, you know, pain-free most days.
Oh,
Unless
wow.
I'm, working really hard in PT, I'll have some soreness,
Sure.
but I I I mean, it's just, I know you can relate to it, just like being in pain. It's
Mm.
just,
No, you're
it's
making
all
me
consume.
get
Yeah,
very
it's
to hear
all
that you say pain
consuming.
free is.
Yeah, it's all consuming, and it's something that you know, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
No.
So the fact that, I can say that, I am for the most part on the other
On the
side,
other side.
it's something that I will forever be eternally grateful for.
Oh, God is good. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. And so is there how many more procedures left before the right side, before this
Oh,
is
so just one more procedure left. They'll have
okay.
to remove the rod once the bone is fully healed. So that'll probably happen late summer or the fall.
Okay. All right.
And then, knock on wood, I'm
Okay.
done.
All right. One
Yeah,
thing
it'll be like
behind
lucky
us.
number 10 and I'll be done.
Oh
10
my
surgeries in about
gosh.
5 years. It's crazy, but
Oh, that's a whole set of trauma on your body, mentally.
yeah.
There's just so much coming out of a surgery, the recovery. Again, people just don't know what all that, just entails and how much it stays with you too.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah,
there's
the medical trauma is real.
it is real. And I think that's the thing that when I decided to just kind of go out, and whether it was the YouTube show or, now this podcast, and, we talked about it, even then I was listening to, our episode about grace. And I know that it's something that we have to extend to others because we are educating our friends and our family. This isn't something that they know either. And they're dealing with their own grief and their worry for us. And so we have to show patience and grace to them as well. And just hoping that people will afford the same to us. There's still just this, and I don't know if we're projecting. I mean, you tell me. I don't know if it's a projection or if it's something that's happening as much as I think that it is, but I still feel like there's this opinion or stigma about us being lazy or oh, I wish I could just do nothing, or I
Yeah.
wish that my day was just I started watching the show Suits because it's long. It's like a lot of episodes. It's just
Yeah,
something to
yeah.
kind of like have on. And someone asked me, what I did, and that's all that I did on a particular day last week, because that's all that I had the bandwidth to be able to do. I couldn't stand. I couldn't focus on an email, because my migraine was so bad. I mean, all I could do was be still and have this on in like the background. But the joke that I know was in love, I don't have people around me that wish me ill, or, I think I've cleared that out. I don't have that kind of energy around me. So I know that they didn't mean it, but it still was just that little sarcasm of, they wish that they could have done that, on their Tuesday. Do you feel like you receive that, or do you feel like it's more in our head?
No, it's definitely not in our head. I think we are, probably more sensitive to it because we're, the ones experiencing it, but it's definitely not in our heads because, yeah, I I can definitely say I feel like I've, also cleaned house of a lot of people that, just didn't get it and were
Yeah.
trying to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, I've, recently had to, travel, I recently traveled to Chicago. I had to, go through the airport and, also like the amount of people that, see me in a wheelchair. Oh, you're so young. Like, you don't need
Oh my
that.
gosh, right.
And I'm like,
Or
you
parking
don't
in the
know.
handicap space. Like,
Yeah,
why are, looking like.
exactly. Like, I feel like they have to police my behavior and my reason for needing any accommodations is something
Mm-hmm.
that greatly frustrates me. Um, I've also had people, say to me, "Oh, I wish I had narcolepsy. Like, I couldn't sleep last night." Well, if you actually like knew what
Right.
narcolepsy was, like, I can't
I
sleep
can't
at
sleep
night.
either.
Like, like that's not what it is.
I
And
haven't slept in years, actually. So.
like it goes back to, I think, the Hollywood of it all. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's definitely not in our heads, and it's it's frustrating that I kind of feel like we constantly have to be the ones educating others if you
Right.
want it to stop,
Exactly. I mean,
which
because
can
we
be
are also Black
exhausting.
women, and
Yes.
so we spend half the time educating people about
About
that,
everything.
about everything.
Saving the world. Saving
All of that, literally saving the world. And then now let me teach you, and you just get tired. I just, last week's episode, I was talking about the isolation of that and how sometimes I don't have the patience, if I'm having a high pain day or just whatever it is, it's like I don't have the energy for you. It's like, and then I feel like I have to apologize. And so it's definitely, we're carrying so much. And so it's just trying to find like the little things. And I think that's why our advocacy, that's something that we can pour into and, find the good in it. And it's something that we can kind of enjoy. And obviously our businesses and the things that we care about, our family, but it's just a lot. It's a lot of a lot of a lot.
Yep, it's
So
a
what do
lot.
you have, what's coming up? I know you have a panel today that you're getting ready
Yes.
for, and so I'm going to let you nap or rest or be still soon, but where can we find you? What's coming up that we should be on the lookout for? What do you want to tell us
You can find me on Instagram at LMT826.
Great.
And, tonight I'm doing a panel with Project Sleep, and it will be available to watch on their website after. It's actually a Facebook Live, so people can tune in on Project Sleep's Facebook, but it'll also live on in their website.
Okay, we'll link that then.
It's a sleep disorder for journalists conversation where we are just trying to get people to accurately depict people with sleep disorders and kind of include them in their journalism, especially as Sleep Awareness Month is coming up. Okay. So we just want it to be, as inclusive as a conversation as possible and include us in the conversation and depict us accurately.
And when is Sleep Awareness Month?
Sleep Awareness Month is March.
March. That's MS Awareness Month too. Look at us. Okay. Yes. All right.
So, I'm excited for that. And other than that, I'll just be working hard in PT, trying to get strong enough to make a trip down to Disney.
Exactly. We can be in our scooters together. It's
definitely fun. But yeah, this was such a fun conversation.
It really was. I just couldn't wait to talk to you. I know. So let me ask you just one more thing, and that's where we'll leave it. For anyone that is new to their journey of living with any form of narcolepsy, what do you wish someone would have told you back when you were first diagnosed?
That's a good question.
Because I'm always like, because I think about when I was terrified, and the Googling and seeing what it could be. And so it's always just, I'm always thinking about what to kind of say to others because it's such a scary time.
I think I would tell people that to find a community. I think having a community of other people dealing with narcolepsy has helped not only for, just, tips of, how to, deal with family members, how to get into advocacy, how to deal with friendships, relationships. It was just like a lot of, I had great friends, but unfortunately, like unloading my, narcolepsy issues with them, not everyone got it and didn't really always say the right thing. And I really couldn't blame them or hold grudges against that because, we're all kind of in this learning process together. But being able to have a community of people that just got it really, I think, helped me through the grief of coming to terms with it. Project Sleep is a great organization. Wake Up Narcolepsy is a great organization. Narcolepsy Network, they have, a conference every year. There are many great organizations out there. If you, want to DM me on Instagram, I'll be there for you. I can connect you with other people. There are support groups, both virtual support groups. And I really think, finding a community outside of, kind of your immediate circle has been extremely helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you said, and we have some amazing friends and family. I mean, I love your mom. I love your dad. And they try, they research on their own. They really try to get it down. And so I'm so grateful that we both have that in terms of a
Yes.
support system. But there's just, I always say that the years that you and I are together in the vineyard is just always so much better for me, because it's like, okay, there's someone here that really gets it. And
Yeah.
that, again, we don't have the same illness, but it's a lot of the same routines, the same kind of needs. And so you just feel normal,
Yeah.
so it's great for you to say that to someone, to find that, because I don't feel different when you and I are hanging out.
Me
It's
neither.
like, oh, this is okay. Yeah, we both have to. Oh, you have to stop. Okay, because I need to stop. Or
Yeah, like, so now
it's not time. Or we do. And it's this normal thing versus when you're out with folks that are healthy, where they are making that accommodation for you, right? And which I appreciate. I'm grateful for, but
it's noticeable.
It's noticeable, and so the ease of being with people that are going through what you're going through in any kind of way, I think is huge. So that's a good one. I love it. We'll leave it there. Oh my gosh, Lauren, thank you. This was amazing. So you guys, I'm going to put all the info in the show notes, where to find Lauren, where to watch the panel with the journalist for Sleep Awareness Month, which is now. We are in March. So there's so much. So please follow her, grab some champagne when you can. Always drink champagne, as Tara, our friend Tara, would say. Yes. It's always a good idea.
Always a good idea.
And I'll talk to you soon. Yes. Thanks, Mama.
Bye.
Bye.